I'm Sarah Brown, and this is The Mothers, real conversations with leaders, creators, and thinkers about who we are, what we want, and how we build meaningful lives alongside motherhood. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the latest episode of The Mothers. I'm Sarah Brown, now recovering from what I have personally proclaimed Medical May. It's when I do all of my proactive medical things, the mammograms, the colonoscopies, the annual derm appointments. As a 40-something, these things both matter and seem to pile up. But do them. They suck. Do them anyway. I had my first colonoscopy, and it was a very hard-earned, drug-induced nap that I honestly still fantasize about. I don't know about you, but when I'm in a medical setting, similar to a funeral, I just start cracking jokes. It's like a social tick. Don't tell my mom, but long ago, I randomly fainted in the middle of the night, stood up too fast, dehydrated because I generally dislike water, knocked my head and had to get stitches. In the ER, I lay on the gurney with lovely doctors asking me how I was, who the president currently was, and I couldn't keep myself from looking up the fluorescent lighting and saying weakly, "Do you also see that bright light?" Similarly, more recently in colonoscopy land, a wonderful nurse was making small talk while trying to dig for a vein, which is apparently impossible to find on me. He asked what my kids were into, and I, of course, said hard drugs. But anyway, medically themed intro because we have a doctor in the house today. A change the game kind of doctor. We have Dr. Robyn Riseberg, founder of Boston Community Pediatrics, the first nonprofit pediatric private practice in Massachusetts, and one of the first in the country. And she's someone who has spent decades caring for children and families across Boston. After years working inside traditional healthcare institutions, Dr. Riseberg launched BCP with a mission to bring equity to pediatric healthcare. How nice! By removing barriers to high-quality care and building a more integrated support system for families often failed by traditional models of healthcare that don't account for the realities of life outside the exam room. Dr. Riseberg previously led pediatrics at the South End Community Health Center and has been recognized by organizations including the Women's Edge, the Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women, and the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce for her work rethinking what meaningful support for families can actually look like. Being impressed and grateful for her choice to do the harder thing and use her skill set to fundamentally make the world better is table stakes. What made Dr. Riseberg stand out to me was her conviction. There's a moment in the episode where we talk about trusting yourself and how difficult that can be, especially for high-achieving women who are used to succeeding inside established systems and structures, prestigious systems, high-functioning systems that often look very good on paper. But sometimes, deep down, you know something isn't quite working. For Dr. Riseberg, that realization happened over years of caring for children and families and recognizing that many of the biggest factors shaping children's health had nothing to do with medicine alone. It was stress, logistics, mental health, school systems, housing, exhausted parents trying to hold impossible amounts together all at once. So instead of continuing to operate inside a model that no longer made sense to her, she built something different. But as you'll hear, not without some critical urging. I think many of you and me, high performers and overachievers listening, will recognize pieces of yourselves in this conversation. I certainly did. The tension between responsibility and instinct, stability and meaning, between proving yourself inside existing systems and trusting yourself enough to imagine a different way forward. We also talk about leadership, fundraising, motherhood, raising daughters, the pressure of feeling responsible for everyone around you, and why, quote, being there for your kids does not necessarily mean being there for every single thing. This is a conversation about conviction, about values, about learning to trust what you know to be true, and finally, doing something about it. Before we jump in, if you're enjoying The Mothers, there are 3 ways you can meaningfully support the show. First, follow or subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Second, if the show has meant something to you, leaving a 5-star review really does help more people discover these conversations. And third, if you're social media inclined, you can follow along on Instagram at The Mothers Pod. If not, join me on Substack, sarahcedrickbrown.substack.com, link in description. And with that, please enjoy my conversation with Dr. Robyn Riseberg. Before anything, just thank you for everything that you're doing. And I'm so glad the world is receiving it, and it's the idea was the right idea anyway, but I'm glad it's being validated. So yeah, I just thank you. Not everyone does this.
Why? But yeah.
Well, wonderful. So I sleuthed, but for our listeners who will not have sleuthed. Well, there's some good stuff out there about you. And also congrats on all the awards. So I feel like that was there's a nice reason for a lot of new stuff to be out there about you. But yeah, I would love to kind of hear your version of the backstory of Robyn's rise. I'm sure maybe people say that all the time. But yeah, the Robyn out here we go. When you want to create, an executive like coaching practice or something, you can do Rise with Robyn. Or you can be a Peloton instructor. But yeah, I would love to hear the sort of beginning story of growing up in Wellesley. It sounds like you have very supportive parents, which also made me emotional to read about.
Yeah.
And how this nugget of I want to help, it sounded like you weren't even interested in medicine necessarily right off the bat, but we're interested in helping people. So bring me back to that girl.
Yeah. So yes, it's true. I grew up in Wellesley, and I also swore I'd never live there. Yeah. Never marry someone from there, and I did both. So
oh my God, I did both too. We should create a little support group for ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I grew up in a home that was very much focused on helping others. My parents were incredible and are incredible role models in that way, and still spend most of their days helping others. Sometimes it's me, and but also in general, others less fortunate. And I went to college at the University of Michigan and thought that I was going to be a sports psychologist. Was very focused on that. Ended up going on a broad program called Semester at Sea, where you sail on a boat to 9 countries around the world. And I fell in love with India. And that was my goal after college, was to go back to India. And so, and then I was going to go back to school to get my PhD in psychology. So I moved home and worked for 6 months, 2 jobs, and saved all my money. And in January of the year after I graduated of 94, I left with a backpack and a friend, and traveled mostly around Southeast Asia. And it was when I was in Delhi that the idea first came to me about medicine. Like, there was so much poverty, and it felt like if I was going to be a psychologist or a sports psychologist specifically, like there was things obviously that I was going to be doing to help people, but not in the same way. And that if I were a doctor, I could really come and do so much to help people here. And so I thought, but I was like, oh, I never took a science class. I kind of had that like stereotypical, like I'm not great at sciences. And so, which was like based on nothing. And so I decided, I put it out of my mind. I came home from that experience and wanted to work in the nonprofit world, and ended up at Planned Parenthood in New York City doing fundraising, which was great because I use what I learned now. Yeah. And then I was volunteering in their clinics on the side, sort of, and ended up really falling in love with that piece of medicine, and was like, this is what I want to do. I worked there for 2 years in fundraising, and was like, a job behind a desk is not for me, but this is amazing. And so I went to Bryn Mawr College to do a post-bac. So I got all of my science classes done in 1 year. And then it's like I think at that time, the only place in the country that you could do a 12-month program and have 0 science classes and do it all.
Wow, that's incredible. And it turned out you were okay at science.
Yeah.
A lot of women have that problem. Girl, I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon, and freshman year in college, chem threw me for a loop.
Yeah.
But I could have been a doctor.
Yes, of course. Well, that's what I mean. I also feel like I always tell people, well, maybe if I had done it then, it wouldn't have turned out this way, right? Like I was focused on it, and I also say I had more fun in college because I wasn't pre-med. So,
yes.
And then I had like my glide year was applying to college, med school, and then I went to UMass Medical School, which I absolutely loved, and was
it's an incredible school, one of the best programs.
Yeah, and I was focused on primary care and advocacy, the things that were really important to me. I knew I wanted to be a pediatrician, although during medical school I really loved all of my rotations, including surgery. So ended up doing my residency at Boston Children's and Boston Medical Center, and finished residency on bed rest. So we're talking about being a mother. So
Wow, yeah.
that was how residency ended for me. And then sort of went off into the world of community health. But
Yeah. Wow. I had a question going back a little bit to you. I was curious, obviously everyone listening also has children. I think all of us are generally trying to raise kids that want to do good things in the world.
yeah,
You mentioned multiple times that your parents were key in kind of modeling
yeah.
the idea of giving back and helping others. Like, how?
I mean, I think they were always volunteering. My mother certainly was somewhere. Like, I think I spent my childhood when I wasn't, in school or doing sports. I was like going to a UNICEF meeting, or there actually was, I remember a kind of a like community center for older adults. And my mom somehow decided that me and my sister, who were not musically inclined or talented, should go and like perform The Sound of Music for people who were older. And so we did. That's what my mom told us to do. And we thought we were like Broadway performers, and we were definitely not. We're both tone deaf, but they loved it. So, so like things like that, they helped kind of answer phones for the Channel 2 auction. And so they always brought us with them, and we got to stay in a hotel overnight, and sometimes we get to like sit and answer phones next to them. And so it was just always a part of the work that we did as a family. We volunteered at Rosie's Place, always on Christmas Eve. And so lots of different things and traditions that were really important to everyone.
It does prove the philosophy that kids follow what you do, maybe more than even what you say, which is a lot of pressure. Good job to your parents. That's great.
Yeah.
And then we were getting up to the point where you were pregnant. And I know we've had a few other doctors on the show, sort of chiefs of various industries, and they talk about how difficult it is to plan family around medicine and just sort of the requirements physically, and in many ways you have no control over your future and your destiny of where you're going to like geographically wind up. But when along this path did a nugget of did you ever think about maybe I want to have kids, and how is this all going to play together? Or were you in this wonderful sort of 20-something-ish probably age where you don't think, and you're nicely oblivious to those practical questions?
No, and I think actually even when I was deciding to go to med school, one of my concerns was like, well, when would I be able to have kids?
Yeah.
I knew that I wanted to. And in fact, I always wanted 4 kids, and my husband wanted 2. And I ended up on bed rest twice, so he won.
Wow. 2 lucky kids, though.
Yeah. Yes. No. And actually, I think sometimes you get what is right for you. And so I really thought a lot about it. And actually my dad always gave me good advice. Like, you can plan, especially around children, all you want. And like the universe sort of may have a different plan, right? So you don't know when you're going to be able to get pregnant, like how things are going to go and all of that. So you can try and plan, but know that like you should plan for what you want to do in life, was his advice. And you'll fit it in along the way, kind of. And I think it was really great advice that I certainly took with me. And I was a little bit older when I was 5 years out of college when I started medical school. So so I knew I couldn't wait forever. And so I was in my 30s when we decided that we were going to give it a try. And actually
now young.
Yeah. Right. Yes. Yeah. Actually, my first daughter, the one who was born on bed rest, is her one of her many claims to fame, because she's amazing, is that she was one of the first baby conceived after the Red Sox won the 2004 World Series, because she was born early.
Oh, wow. Did she get a little snapshot on like Boston.com?
Oh, well, she was like on the front page of the Boston Globe. So
I thought yes.
Yeah.
So everyone listening probably knows her. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, what an achiever.
Yeah. Yeah. So she's
classic first child.
Yes.
Are you the oldest? Do you have siblings?
I have 3 other siblings, so I'm second. I have an older sister and then 2 younger brothers.
Got it. I'm the oldest of 2, and it's wonderful, but also comes with a lot of burdens. I feel like there's some way that it's easy. It's never easy to start something. I feel like the oldest has so much doubt and expectation, and then everyone underneath it is sort of like protected by that and can maybe just try the thing as opposed to needing the thing to be amazing and therefore never starting it. But okay, so then you're end of residency on bed rest, and then is there a period of time where you're off, or how do we roll into?
Yeah. So I actually had started a fellowship. It was or I was going to start a fellowship, and it was supposed to start like around July 1. Emma was born on June 18th. So I wasn't going to, and she was early and in the NICU for 2 weeks. So I definitely wasn't starting like a fellowship right away. And so I took about 3 months off and started in September. And it was a fellowship where I was going to do research, clinical research, and get my master's in public health, and also did some clinical work. And actually by Thanksgiving, I realized I couldn't do it. So it was because I had missed the intensive public health classes in the summer. I was doing my public health work at night, my clinical work at night, and then the research during the day. So I had a 3-month-old baby and was, gone from morning till night and pumping. And it just, it was very quickly apparent to me that this wasn't going to work for me. And so I left the fellowship, which most people in medicine don't leave fellowships. And it caused a lot of chatter. It was a fellowship at Boston Medical Center. And so I fulfilled all of my clinical responsibilities because I didn't want to leave anyone else to like do my clinical work. But I did leave. And because I knew like of all the things that I was doing, that clinical work, seeing patients was my favorite piece of it. That was the one thing I wasn't willing to give up. And so I was like, the only way I'm going to be able to do this is if I focus on that and leave kind of the rest behind. So that's what I did. It was hard.
Good for you. Was there, I'm sure. And these are the stories that I feel like we kind of gloss over. And it's such a tragic, our guest, this will come out later, but recent guest talked about just blankly. She's like, we lose so many geniuses to motherhood. A lot of people find a way anyway. Sometimes their options are narrowed and they achieve within that. And sometimes that's just real life. But, when you stepped away and left, you said there was chatter. Was this, maybe we should find a way that this doesn't have to be how she has to make this choice? Or what was the chatter?
I mean, I think the chatter was like, this is a fellowship that people don't leave. So how are you going to do that? And I was like, well, I'm a pediatrician and I just said I wanted to spend more time with my child. So I think I can do it. I'm not like handcuffed here. And I will like fulfill any responsibilities. If I had to pay back anything, I would pay back anything. I mean, it didn't because it was a fellowship. I was getting paid almost nothing. So it was fine. But I would do it. I am not doing this to like harm anyone else or harm a program. And I understand you get a certain number of spots in a program. And that's why I said I will continue to do all my clinical work. I don't want to put that on my colleagues, right? Because I'm leaving. But I just this is a 2-year program and I'm going to wake up and my daughter's going to be 2 and I'm going to be like, well, I have my master's in public health. But I missed out on all these things.
Can I ask, when you show up and start being visibly pregnant in a medical setting, in this case, it was residency.
Yeah.
Do people look at you? Are they like, oh, or is it competitive? Are they like, well, now I'm going to get her spot? What's the?
I guess I was a pediatric resident. So
yeah,
I mean, it's kids, people.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't feel that way.
That's good.
Yeah, at all.
Yeah.
And there were some other like people in the hospital who were pregnant at the same time. In fact, two of them I know and were fellows at the time. So that was kind of nice.
That's good.
But
Yeah. And has it improved in any way since? I know the whole experience of becoming a doctor is so brutal,
yeah,
whether you add pregnancy onto it or not.
Brutal. And I don't know. I always wonder, like, why does it have to be so brutal? Like, obviously, you have to show dedication, but and you're responsible for people's lives, so you want to make sure people are taken seriously. But it doesn't. It feels like it could be a little bit nicer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
you left the fellowship and then fill in the gap. So what
Yeah, so
happens
then
between that and you going to South End Community Health Center?
yeah, not that much time. I sort of like
Okay.
kind of worked, kind of dabbled at a few other community health centers to see who else had kind of availability and where else would be a good fit for me. And ultimately, so I left there and by Thanksgiving I had left. And then I'm pretty sure it was like January when I started the South End Community Health Center. So it wasn't that much time. And I was so excited. Jerry Haas, who had started the health center, is like a very kind of well-known pediatrician. And there was like this rumor about him that he was kind of like Robin Hood. And he I don't want to say stole, because stole isn't the right word, but like from the rich, support the poor.
Yes.
And so he had actually a private practice in Cambridge that he left to start the South End Health Center. So some of his patients both came with him and also sort of donated to help get it started. And so, I was like so excited to work with him because he had this like aura about him in like the pediatric world, if you're interested in community health. I also got to work with this wonderful mentor of mine now, Gloria White Hammond, who is a pediatrician but left to go do some work in the Sudan. So I actually kind of took over a lot of her patients when she left, because she left to not come back as a pediatrician there, or she didn't practice medicine the same way after. So it was really exciting because I was like, oh my gosh, like I want to do pediatrics. I want to work with an underserved community. This is, I had learned Spanish. This was a predominantly Spanish speaking community. And I just learned Spanish before I went to medical school to work with a Spanish speaking population. So it was, oh my gosh, the stars have all aligned. And here I am, like had this hard kind of bump of leaving this other fellowship program. But I think I've found my people and my place, and it was great.
Yeah. And you then had a second, did you have two kids at that point or?
No, so I just had one. And so I was there for probably about 6 months or so 6 to 9 months before I got pregnant again, or actually 6 months, I guess, with my second daughter. And I knew I was going to be on bed rest with her because my pregnancy had been bad with Emma. And so I begged them to put me on reverse bed rest for as long as possible, which was I could go to work and then I had to rest at home. Because and for people who know me, they will not be surprised by that because I do a lot. So I was like, please don't take my work away from me. Like, I know I'm going to be sitting at home anyways. And so I did that for a little while, but I basically went on bed rest from Thanksgiving until March 10th when she was born. So it was like I hibernated for the winter.
Wow. And I saw somewhere that said you were maybe working part-time, quote unquote, to be able to kind of be with your kids a little bit more. Is that?
So I worked part-time when we were younger, which was amazing. So, so I was able to be home a couple of days, and then I worked 3 days and was home too. So it was great.
Yeah. And then this was my favorite quote. I'm curious if you agree with it still. You were saying your boss left. I don't know which that was of the folks you mentioned.
Neither
boss left and appointed. Okay. Boss left and appointed me head of pediatrics despite my not wanting the job.
That is still,
is that still true?
I mean, now I want the job because I have the job. But at the time I was like, oh, I definitely don't want that job. And he was like, sorry, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
You're it.
Why didn't you want it?
Well, I was like, I am not interested in like all the administrative responsibilities. That sounds not that much fun. Um,
Mhm.
and I guess now I'm going to have to work full time.
Mhm.
But it was mostly like the administrative burden never interests me. Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that piece of medicine is not interesting. And I don't want to do it. But
Yeah.
I did. Uh,
Yeah.
and actually found that what I did like doing was creating a team and bringing people together to work together and
Yeah.
creating programs and fighting for what I believed in. And so I do a lot of that. Um, but, uh, but it was, I always say like, it's kind of like the journey is the journey. And if that hadn't happened, I probably would have never done this because I would have never like dabbled in that to understand even more what I didn't like about the administrative pieces of medicine. And I didn't like them because they're so dysfunctional because our healthcare system is dysfunctional.
Yeah.
Um, and, had I not realized that, I wouldn't have started this. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I let talk a little bit more about this because I from what we've heard of a lot of stories and just colleagues and people in my life, you're incredibly driven, ambitious, have a clear vision for what you want your work life to be like. You have kids who it turns out you actually really enjoy as well, and you're trying to like find a way to be effective in all these domains. It can be hard to kind of, and I think there's absolutely room, and if you have the ability to sort of ramp up and down, like have a flexible, sometimes career takes the front seat, sometimes it takes
Yeah.
second seat or something. Um, but I think there are also folks that I hear a lot from who are happily with careers comfortably in the second seat, but there's a little bit of an itching. But the idea of being pushed back into that, whether it's full time or whatever version of beyond full time, take the next big job, the quote unquote, the phrase I hate, but this idea of like leaning in, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Um, what would you say to either you or I don't know if it's your daughter one day who's in this spot where it's like, you kind of want to do more, but like, how do you push someone into that? Because interesting, this happened to you
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
wouldn't really
I
let
know.
you say no.
Right. I know. I think it's like, um, sometimes you have to try things and know that, again, like I'm not afraid to try something and say, like, this didn't work as I
Yeah.
did with the fellowship, right? Like that didn't work for me in
Hmm.
that moment. And so, but if you don't try it, you'll sort of never know in many ways. And I was lucky I had the opportunity to, like, I could have said no at any moment along those ways because I wasn't the like final head of it, right? I think
Yeah.
in life, like, especially even with kids or without kids, like when you go to the next step, everything seems so final, right? And I think that's what
Yeah.
scares people a lot is like, oh, well, if I do this, then like, no, you're only as stuck as you believe you are, I think, right?
Hmm.
So like, if something doesn't work,
Yeah.
change it. And you can,
Yeah.
and I mean, and like that actually, like in all fairness, is from a position of privilege because not everyone can just change things, quite frankly.
Yep.
And I understand that, but I think when you're making these larger decisions about, do I try this? Do I not try it? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes you
Yeah.
have to try it to know whether it works or not.
Yeah. Well, this might be the perfect segue to Boston Community Pediatrics,
Yeah.
which you just tried and seems to be like
Yeah.
beyond successful. But yeah, take me to you had this instinct that the system's broken. Can we try to find a different way? And left, I understand, in the middle of COVID when everyone's thinking rationally. And your daughter said, go for it. But walk me through how you got to a place to taking that leap.
Yeah. Well, so it was long before COVID that I was at that kind of, you know, there was a fork in the road and I had to figure out
Mm.
where I was going to go. The administrative piece had really started to take a toll on me, um, and I was like so frustrated with how we were being asked to kind of, take care of patients. Like it was like one patient every 15 minutes, and the best doctors could see patients that quickly. And no, we didn't have money for extra things, and we couldn't innovate. And I brought mental health into the Department of Pediatrics, which was amazing, but but we were co-located, which was a huge step, but took so much work just to make that happen. And I helped start a school-based health center at the Blackstone School, and then ran it, which was amazing. But it was like everything that we did along the way, it was like you had to sort of like fight for it. It was never like, okay, let's try this. And how do we make this program work? It was like, well, we can't do it that way, or we can't do that, or this is grant funded. We don't have the money for that. And it was, I just like, was like, I can't keep doing it this way. And I like want to work a long time, and I love taking care of patients, but the rest of it, I shouldn't have to hate so much. Right. And I would come home every night, and the drive on the Mass Pike, I would call my parents and complain. And then I would get home and complain. And my kids, it was really, they were like, we're really sick of hearing you complain. We're really sick of hearing about some of they were like, so just do it. Just start your own thing. I'm like, my own thing. And they were like, yeah, why can't you? And I love their like ability to just say things like that. And I said, well, to them, this is going to be hard, and I'm going to be home less. And they were like, well, are you going to complain less when you're home? Which is like a really interesting thing. Right. And I was like, yeah, probably. And they were like, okay, yeah, do it. We're like totally on board. Go, Mom.
That's awesome.
And my husband is definitely an entrepreneur at heart. And, when you talk about like front seat, back seat, I feel like when my kids were really young, like my husband's career sort of was like at the forefront. And he traveled quite a bit, and I was always the one home. And we also had a nanny, so we had a lot of support. And, but then it was sort of at this point, he had more flexibility and wasn't traveling anymore. And so it was kind of like, it was okay for me to kind of, I would say like try something more innovative. Whereas he had done that previously. So, yeah. So I started thinking about different models and talking to people all over the country and trying to think about like, how would I actually do this? And I took a couple years to do that. And actually every summer, my kids like to even, to bring it back to the kids, which it always comes back to me in many ways. Yeah. My kids always went to overnight summer camp, and I had always taken 2 weeks vacation. It was the only time I ever took 2 weeks in a row off to go be the camp doctor at their summer camps. I took off from work to go work. Again, awesome. Kind of typical, but it was very different. I was in, sort of workout clothes. But anyways, so and then for 2 summers while I was there, I was like, I had some extra time. So I would do the research, and I would talk to people, and got really excited about, this idea of maybe the first iteration of this was like a concierge medicine practice that was focused on patients with low income, but had very mixed patient population, but was for a for-profit organization. And so I pitched that to some people who could help fund it because I needed capital. And they didn't like the idea. They were like, nah, I'm not interested in investing, not enough return. So I was like, okay, back to the drawing board. So I think at that moment, some people might have been like, forget it, this isn't going to work. But I was like determined to figure it out. And so decided to think about like, well, what works in Massachusetts, and small private practices work as far as like in medicine. Like if you call, actually someone answers the phone. Like some of the things that were so frustrating to me at the health centers, people wouldn't answer the phone. And then when they did, people would be on hold for an hour, and then they tell them they had an appointment in a couple of days. And if you have a sick kid, a couple of days is like useless. Yeah. Like you need an appointment now. And so I thought, well, that like, if I call my pediatrician, they answer and they tell me to come in. So if I could kind of create that type of a small office, but have all the things that I know that patients need and want to be successful, like having mental health, like really integrated into the work, having a whole team to help families with the social determinants of health, really integrated into the work, having resources on site to help families and kids. If I could do all that, I could make it work. And so I thought, well, if I create a nonprofit pediatric private practice, maybe that would work. And so I went back even to some of the same people and pitched this idea, and they were like, yes, I would give philanthropic dollars for that. So I was like, okay.
Mm.
And I think all I had to hear was yes from a couple of people to think, okay, here we go. And so, so it was actually in the fall of 2019. And it was while I was at that summer camp that I established an LLC, and then started like kind of talking to people about raising money, but I didn't yet have my nonprofit status. And I was still working full time while I was doing this because I knew that if I was going to like leave, I didn't want to leave patients. And I felt very committed to that. And so it was in March of 2020. I had established so I got my nonprofit status that fall. I had established a board. I had my first board meeting in January of 2020. And then in March of 2020, I had a fundraiser. It was a very small group of people to raise money to get BCP off the ground. And it was like the day before the world shut down. In fact, it was like we almost weren't sure we should have it. My younger daughter's bat mitzvah was supposed to be that month in March of 2020. Wow. And I had to cancel that or postpone it, I should say. And I remember even calling our temple to postpone it. And they said, oh, we know things are getting bad, but we think you're being a little premature. And I was like, I'm not. I'm like, things are going to go really south fast. So I just need to do this now because I have to focus on how to get the health center ready and prepared for what's coming. Yeah. And so we had this fundraiser, and it was two other people who were kind of like on this panel to talk about health equity. And I was talking about something so hypothetical that I think people already wrap their heads around it. And it wasn't great. And I couldn't ask anyone for money after that, because literally that was it. I was on the front line at the South End Health Center, and then everyone else like shut down. So I thought, well, I have to put this on hold because we're in the pandemic and a crisis and we have to deal with it. So I really ran with a couple other people, like the COVID response at the health center, and was in person every day seeing patients. And then I would get home and tell my kids to come get in the car, and we had to go buy like diapers and formula and gift cards for patients at Target, and everything closed early. And my kids would get in the car, and they were in middle school, and they would say, everyone else is telling their kids to stay home, and you're telling us to like get in the car and go to Target. And I was like, guess what? Like real life is that people are starving. People don't have formula. People don't have diapers. They have no like funds to get it and no access to get it. So like, we're going to do this. And so they were like totally on board, but we would show up at like 5 of 7, and, everyone wanted to leave at 7. And they would always say to me, we're just not going to go to the gift card lady. She is fun. She doesn't like us, and she doesn't show up at 5 of 7 asking for gift cards. And like, I know I feel really bad, but like I've been at work all day, and this is it. So they were
amazing.
Well,
I'm not a real person. How do you? I know people that were in medicine. I think doctors in general have some extra superpower tank on their back a little bit. But how did you, even before you were running your own thing, like this is a crisis mode. It's hard enough to manage just the COVID response piece, but then also a family at home involved. I get they're sort of teenager-ish age where I gather my kids aren't that old yet, but I gather they need you in a different way. How do you then, and maybe even forever, how did you kind of maintain? Because I've heard people that they're working in the front lines, they get home, they shower up, they're like, don't come near me, like I'm quarantining. They're definitely not saying, get in the car, let's go, like do more. That's amazing. I'm just wondering, how do you reflect on how you're able to do that, or it just is?
Well, I think I like go into different modes, like and they're not all separated. Like, I mean, all my patients, my staff knows, like if my kids call, I answer the phone. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Like I could be in the most important meeting, maybe not the most important meeting, like most meetings, like I wouldn't answer right now but
you should.
But normally, like they call and I pick up, and sometimes they have something important to tell me, and sometimes they are just like, I'm having the worst day. I just wanted to like tell you one thing. I know you're busy. Or they usually say like, are you with a patient? What are you doing? And then like, and I just say to my patients, like, it's my kids. Like, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
And like, I'm here, and they get it. Cause like, they're like, you're here
Right.
taking care of our kids. And so we understand.
Yeah.
And then, but so when I go home, I'm still often doing work, but like I go into like, okay, now I'm here. Right.
Mhm.
And it's not always that perfect or clean or easy either.
Yeah.
But they sort of know like, okay, well, when she comes home, we'll be able to hang out. And I did my best to like, I think some of it, COVID was hard because most people weren't working or they weren't working outside their house. And
Mhm.
so like, they'd be like, well, everyone else's mom is like baking cookies with them. I'm like, I mean, I never baked cookies with you anyways before. So I'm cookies with now. But so, I mean, some stuff they actually asked me. I remember they wanted me to take a day off, so it'd been March to May. So I hadn't taken a day off since May. That wasn't a weekend. And they said, we really like, can you just take a day off, like, and do one thing with us? And I was like, sure. What do you want to do? They're like, we just want you to take us to Pliables and get like a smoothie bowl. I'm like, you want me to take a day off to drive to Pliables? And they were like, yes, everyone else's parents are doing that. And like, it's more fun to go with you than dad. I was like, okay, fine.
Oh, flatter me and I'll do anything.
Exactly. So I was like, hey, and everyone's like, you're taking a day off. And I'm like, yep, we're going to Pliables, everyone. Like, so.
Yeah. Wow. Sorry, before we get into the wonderful story of BCP, if I don't know if it goes by BCP, Boston Community Pediatrics. I was just curious if you could talk about the mindset around fundraising, raising money for a thing that's your idea, that you're already like really determined that this should work, but we don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like this doesn't have to be a gendered thing, but I think women, and then women, once they become mothers, there's a sense of like deep responsibility that just gets deeper. And you're now taking a lot of money from other people and you want it to go well. Do you get rattled by that, or like, how do you kind of breathe through that?
I used to think like, well, if this didn't work out, I could work like multiple jobs, and pay everyone back. And everyone's like, no, that's not like how it goes. Like, if you like have a nonprofit and you took money from people and you like tried to run it and something didn't work, like no one's like going to ask for their money back. And I was like, well, I would feel so responsible. Like you said, like I've now taken money from people, many of whom like I know, and like I would have to pay them back. Like I spent a lot of time thinking about how I could possibly pay people back. And then, and then I think I was able to like, as I started raising a little bit more money, move past that. But someone did say to me, a close friend, who actually used to, help with test taking strategies in medical school, actually, believe it or not, she was like a brilliant, teacher. And she said to me one day before we opened, are you really going to do this? And are you really going to be the person who raises all the money and is the face of the organization? Because if you are, you're going to have to change the way you talk about it, and you're going to have to change the way you ask people for money, because you're going to have to do it with a little bit more confidence. And like you're it. Like you either decide that you're it or you got to hire someone to do it. But like you can't like half-ass it, so to speak.
Yeah.
I remember because she had a doctor's appointment at this like Mass General office like in Mission Hill. And we sat in this lobby, and she was like, so you better figure out if you're going to, she likes to swear a lot. So she was probably like, if you're going to fucking do this or not. And I was like, yeah, right. Yeah, you're right. Yep. I am. She's like, okay, well then go do it. So it is interesting. I think like there are points along the way that you make decisions like, okay, I'm doing this. But to this day, I feel super responsible for all the patients. We serve over 1,700 patients, and we're growing. And for staff, we have 23 staff members, and our fundraising depends on it. So I always make sure that we have money in the bank. This idea that nonprofits are supposed to like balance their budget to zero is a really weird concept that I don't believe in. And I think of this as a business, and I think of philanthropy as like my VC money. And so, And so people who, are backed by venture capitalists always have extra money in the bank to try new things and do different things and make sure that they're able to do everything they need to do to be successful. And so that's really the philosophy we have here.
I love that. Where did you discover that? Or did you tried it that way and that's how you created the model?
I think I've like modeled this after a bit. I was like, well, I'm starting a business. Like, yes, it's a nonprofit, the business. And if you run a business, I mean, I never went to business school, so I don't know, but I was like, I think this is how you're supposed to run a business. Like you run a tight ship, you know where the expenses are coming, you know where the revenue's coming, and you got to make it work, and you got to make sure that you can keep the lights on and pay everyone. So, and I, I watched sort of some of my friends, colleagues, our board chair runs a very successful venture capital business. And I was like, they invest in their people and they go on, offsites and they retreats and different things. And like, we're going to do the same thing. Like, why not?
Yeah.
If you're going to be successful, you have to invest in like the people who are doing the work.
Yes. I actually wanted to ask, because two things I saw. One is, as far as the website, only women work there right now. Which is amazing and so refreshing after you see, I don't know, you look at any VC firm, there's like all white men generally, and there's like one token woman, which is frustrating. But so it's sort of like a big FU being like, okay, scroll, woman. Good for you.
Yeah. We do just hire a male pediatrician who works very, very part-time, but okay. Yes, I am willing.
Well, you also
men.
Yes, I'm sure. Yes. You also, it looks like, or you had mentioned at a certain point that everyone is part-time because the work is so intense. Except for you.
Yeah. Just the pediatrician. So most people are full-time, but the pediatricians, the idea of like seeing patients full-time, I think it's like almost not possible in the system that we've created. And so, so we don't have anyone who sees patients full-time, like, every day.
That's amazing. I mean, it goes back to even the residency, the process of becoming a doctor. Why I think there are reasons where it's tight. And of course, like we could go outside the system and create it differently, but it is too much. And we shouldn't ask people to do too much on top of keeping people alive. So thank you for modeling that and building, I'm sure, an awesome culture.
Yeah.
I was curious about, and maybe I can say this being someone living in Newton, I am always curious what it is like to go between an affluent world and then going into a low income environment. And, God bless you, you're actually trying to make the world better. Not necessarily just trying to have a bigger house.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, how do you think about that? Because something that, a lot of our listeners, I think, are in they're highly resourced, high income families, alone or in partnership, and also feel a need and a desire to give back, but also find comfort in their comforts. Just curious, like, are you like, I'm existing in two different worlds? Do they serve each other? Do you feel guilty? Yeah.
I feel like I exist in two different worlds most days. Yeah. And I used to describe it as, like Wonder Woman would like have her regular clothes on and then she goes through like the door and she comes out in a different outfit and like, I like wear the same outfit. But I feel like I'm like going from one place to a totally different place. And it's, and some of that is the point of what I'm trying to like get across. And I feel like there's an opportunity for me to bring the community from Wellesley to BCP to give back and also to understand that like we're all humans, right? And we all want the same thing for our kids, which is like kids to have like, nice things and great opportunities and be successful in life. And it doesn't matter if you are, living in a homeless shelter or you're living in the kind of most expensive house in Wellesley. Parents in general want the same things for their kids. And so that is really kind of the philosophy that I bring to BCP, which is that like everything has to be really nice and new here. And all of the things that we give kids are things that I would want to give to my own kids. And so like even we distribute backpacks and school supplies around back to school time. And actually, one of my daughters one time was helping me stuff them. And she was like, Mom, these backpacks are really shitty. And I'm like, what do you mean? They were like donated. We like sent this like nice website. She's like, I don't know, but they like, I've broken 3 zippers. She's like, you are not going to want to give these to your patients. And I was like, oh no, we have like 100 of them. And she's like, I guess you better go buy some. And so like we
I love your kids.
We like scrambled and went to Dick's Sporting Good and had them give us like like bought all new backpacks. Cause like, I was like, oh my God, I can't like in good conscience give out these crappy backpacks and stuff. But it can be hard at times. Like if, when things are really tough, at work or patient, and it's usually they're really tough when patients are struggling, like around housing insecurity, or like when SNAP benefits were stopped in November, like that was a horrible time. And we, of course, mobilized and had food here on the first day, and were ready and supported families with gift cards and stuff. But like families in Wellesley probably didn't even know, like they might not know what SNAP is, and they certainly didn't know it was shut down for the most part, right? Because it doesn't affect them. But when they hear about it, they're like, okay, how can we help? And that's what I love about bringing communities together.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And sometimes like we've had opportunities where kids, patients, and then kids from Wellesley have like run groups together here and volunteered together. And that to me is like the best. It's kind of the same thing of people sitting in the waiting room together. So we have people from all walks of life. The majority of our patients have low income, but then we have about 10% of our patients could go anywhere. And so I love seeing the moms sit next to each other and just talk about like parenthood or their kids or something, because again, like I think at our core, we're all humans, and there's such a shared experience in being a parent, and it's so humbling to everyone. And so I think we can all we learn from each other, and it's great to see that kind of cross socioeconomic lines and race lines and everything else, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's true everywhere. I think of Boston as a very segmented society. Like it doesn't, along income lines, I find there isn't a lot of intermixing. So it's incredibly powerful. And I think this is a broader problem in the world. Like we're just alienating ourselves from everybody. And to your point, you're doing so much on top of this, but bringing people to have shared experiences and allow them to be shared is really powerful. So I'm so glad. We talk a bit about having it all on this show, which is this sort of legacy thing that some people are kind of over, but it maybe lingers. I actually see your life and I'm like, damn, she has it all. Like a meaningful career that is big, but aligned to what you care most, like a purpose that's really deeply within you. You have kids that seem awesome. They go to Pliable. Married, living in Wellesley. As a Newtonian, I can say Wellesley, but maybe that's the one mark against you. But yeah, how do you think about your full life and what all is?
Yeah. I mean, I feel incredibly lucky. That's not to say that my life is perfect in any way, right? I think that is a misnomer, right? But I really, family, and I talk about this here, like my kids and my husband, my family are like the most important things to me. And then work. And I try to model that for staff, and always say like, you have to put your family first. Right. And you can put work pretty high up there too. Right. But like, that, like no one would ever, like anything that ever happens, or someone has like a meeting at school that they didn't know about and they're like, oh my God, what should I do? I'm like, cancel your patients, go to the meeting, like, or reschedule them, or like I'll jump in and see them or whatever. Like you can't miss I always tried never to miss the things that were important. And I didn't always do it perfectly. I mean, so many times I showed up at my kids' like sports games, like at the last minute, and I would be like, I'm here, like waving, like, and they'd be like, you missed my goal or you missed this. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, I'm here now, and I'd be getting the play-by-play from, my husband or half the time the other moms on the way in because they knew I was like scrambling to get there. And but I mean, I think the one thing I really try and do is show up. So, and show up for them. And this month I was just one of my daughters is in Europe, and I was just there with her this weekend, and I'm going back the month, and I'm going to meet my other daughter, in Florida next week. And so, I just will sort of like, if they need me, I will be there. And I think they know that. And, I think everyone does the best that they can, with what they're given. And sometimes you don't know, like I was so nervous about starting BCP that it was going to take away from my ability to be a good parent to my kids. I really was. And there were many times that, many nights that like I didn't get home till very late, but I would like help them with their homework, or I would read over their paper when I got home. I think I don't need a lot of sleep, and I don't need like a lot of me time. Like I'm okay with giving that up for my kids or for my work, and that's different for everyone, but that's just like that's how like I can operate. But I know like some it is hard to have it all, and whatever that means. Right. But I think it's like, what is it like, what works for you and what makes you happy? I think at its core, like you have to be like happy with how you're doing it. And certainly like at times that might mean like a little bit of disappointment. I'm sure like there were many times that my kids were like, could you please come home? Or, they'll like, we need to talk to you. And it's funny, we all like share our location, and they're like, we can see you're still at work. So like, you can't tell it's not. And I'm like, well, I'm really leaving soon. Or, at one point they were like, could you, I think it was during COVID that they were like, you need to like, everyone else makes dinner for their kids. And I'm like, I don't love to cook. It's like not my thing. And I was like, well, I can make dinner like once a week, maybe. And like, on Mondays I would come home and everyone at work would be like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to make tacos like every good mom should do. And here I am. And then the next week I would be like, or we could just have sweet green, guys. That would be really like a good cooked meal, wouldn't it? They're like,
that's my model. Oh man. Well, I know we're running up on time. I just wanted to wrap it with, there are two little short answer questions that we love to throw out there at the end. And so these can be rapid fire, or you can go on as long as you have time. But we like to ask, if you go back to your new mom self, that very first time, is there anything that you would say to her?
Yes, like don't worry about all the like unimportant things, like making sure your house doesn't have to be spotless, and like everything doesn't have to be perfectly in order. Like just try to like enjoy being in the moment, and because it goes by so fast. Like my kids are 18 and 20, and like I would like, I'd love a day with them as a baby, as a toddler, as a, a little one again. So, but I think to control it all feels really hard in that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking back to the phases of your life and the different chapters, and to your point, I don't know if it's bravery or courage, but just the idea of, well, let's just try this for now and see what happens. And I feel like you've written a beautiful book so far. Our last question though is, your daughters might listen to this, or one day maybe they will. Is there anything you'd like to say to them?
Just that like they are truly my inspiration for everything, wanting to make the world a better place, wanting to give other kids opportunities that they've had, and really create something like out of nothing, and to show them that it's possible, that like they really can do anything that they want to do, if they have the, determination and hard work and are willing to kind of risk and sacrifice things in order to do it.
Yes, Robyn, you're such a great mom. I mean, I imagine, and they're so lucky, and it sounds like everyone's supporting each other. No one's trying to be anything more than they are. So thank you for all your incredible work. Boston Community Pediatrics, we can follow up after, but if we can get people to support in any way, I would love to find a way to do that. We can link to things in our episode descriptions and such, but thank you for the work that you do and what you've built, and making life better for so many people that need it most. So thank you for joining us and telling us how you did it all.
Oh, well, thanks for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Well, Robyn, what an absolute angel. She deserves every accolade that is coming her way. What Boston Community Pediatrics is such a wonderful model. It's obviously a sad state of affairs that we need private investors to make healthcare meaningfully accessible at really any income, but also be patient-centric in that way. But here we are. And to that point, there'll be links in our episode descriptions to go get involved and support the organization. As she said, I think 2/3, sometimes it's even more, of their organization is totally funded philanthropically, the remainder through lovely insurance. But anyway, some takeaways for me and for you. One, role modeling. She said, we talked about this at the very beginning, but one of the reasons that it was so true to her that she wanted to be able to be helpful to others. And I know this is something that many of us want our kids to be good people. The role modeling that her parents did of just, they participated as a family in charitable moments. They volunteered together. They were generous people in front of their kids. So, the kids are always watching, but I think the role modeling what is the adage? Matters more what you say. No, matters more what you do, not what you say. Really does matter. And I know she's passing that along to her kids now too. The other piece I thought about was just the importance of trusting yourself, which she seemed very confident in her, or it seems like a person that operates with great conviction, acknowledging there's doubts and uncertainty along the way, but there's sort of deep knowing about certain things that are truths to her, and standing by those. And examples being when she stepped away from that fellowship that was apparently wildly controversial, something that you would never do, but to her, this just didn't feel right, wasn't working. And obviously having a child being a large contributor to that, or the primary contributor to that decision, but not apologizing for it, is important for us to see. If the system isn't working for us, we should move into places where it is working or create something different. I think that sort of conviction, trusting yourself, it does show up also in the fundraising. I think of this even now in what I'm building as to if and when and how to be asking for more money, who to be pitching. And I do struggle with this feeling of a deep responsibility. If I'm asking for investment, I need to be as confident as possible, or I need to even honestly just guarantee that you will get a return, you'll get your money back, it'll be worth it. And I think that's, one of many reasons that women make great business people, but it also means it's one of the reasons many women don't ask. But we need to trust ourselves. And interesting that Robyn, even she, grappled with this feeling of deep responsibility, and that if investors invest, she wants to bring it back to them and pay it back to them if anything goes wrong. But we got to just ask anyway. Take the money and run. Another anecdote I think is just interesting, and I'll keep reflecting on too, was that we talked about this moment in her sort of earlier when she started working as a pediatrician, and she was working part-time while she had the young kids. And then her boss left and said, "You are now the head of pediatrics." And Robyn was like, "I don't want this job." But she did take on that bigger job that she sort of was wavering on whether there was time or space for it. And in retrospect, is incredibly grateful that she did that. That was an important pivot to her, or for her career. I resist the lean in mantra, but I think there is some merit to the idea that sometimes we need to push ourselves into trying something that's a little bigger than what we have, especially if the concern is, I don't know if, as opposed to I am certain. And I think Robyn even talked about that of you don't know until you try. So maybe try the big thing. And if it is horrible, you can always step away and do something else. And then I think we ended also on this point that was really swirling around mom guilt, but she talked about, she obviously works a lot. Work is very important to her. It's meaningful. It fills her cup. I think it's really why she has the energy. She's doing something that gives her energy as long as, or at the same time as it sort of takes her energy. And in terms of not being able to be there for everything for her kids, she says, but it's very important to me that I'm there when it matters. And I will always answer the phone if they call. And obviously need to have an open, trusting relationship with your children to know what moments matter. And for your kids to know why you can't be there in other instances. And obviously acknowledging that sometimes there'll be misalignment. What we thought mattered was different than what the kid thought. But I think some level of giving ourselves space to show up when it matters as opposed to expecting ourselves to show up always is really useful because we can't be everywhere all the time. And that's okay. And us doing that shows our kids that that's okay for them. So anyways, Robyn, I would love to have 25 more conversations with you. What a joy. What a wonderful role model. And thank you for all the work that you are doing and for taking time to share it with us. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day. And thank you for listening, as always, and supporting what we're doing here with the mothers. So take care. Thank you so much for joining us. Please remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode and we can reach even more rock stars like you. The Mothers is a production of Backline Media, shining a light on those who carry the team.